Right, I'd like to welcome everyone to WFCHRIE 2022 conference. Safely return to the classroom panel discussion. I'd like to go over just a few quick things and then I will get this started. So we'll talk about, I'll introduce each of the panelists, brief introduction of myself, very brief review of the process, remind everyone to please put comments and questions in the Q&A box or the chat box. I will relay those to the panelists. Then we'll have the panelist discussion and some audience question and answer at the end. So I'd like to introduce first Dr. Chang. Dr. Chang is an associate professor, Chaplin School of Hospitality and Tourism Management, Florida International University. Dr. Chang is committed to excellence in teaching the field of data analytics, revenue management, and financial analyst. Positive comments from students revolve around how hard he works for enhancing student learning. One student wrote, "Dr. Chang is a great professor. I admire how he pushes his students to be better and not be afraid of numbers. He's given hospitality students a more business and analytical mindset, which is wonderful. Of course, he receives negative comments, very difficult class. He wants students to live and breathe this class." Next, we have Dr. Rain Kai, Assistant Professor, Hospitality Management, Davis School of Business, Colorado Mesa University. Dr. Kai received her Ph.D. from Washington State University, a Master's of Science from Oklahoma State, BBA from Ziman University. Throughout the years, gained experience in hotels, restaurants, and resorts, teaches hospitality management and marketing courses. Dr. Kai's papers appear in top-tier journals such as Tourism Management, International Tourism, Journal of Hospitality Management, International Journal of Contemporary Hospitality Management, and Journal of Business Research. Dr. Margie Ferree Jones is professor of the Collins College of Hospitality Management at Cal Poly Pomona. Margie earned her Ph.D. from Claremont Graduate University, a master's degree in hotel administration from Cornell, and bachelor's in economics from Indiana. Margie leads the beverage program for the college. In addition to beverage-related coursework, Margie teaches the strategic leadership course at both the undergraduate and graduate level. She has also taught courses, marketing, special events, hotel and resort planning, and development in food and beverage. So today we will have an assigned question for each panelist. They will have 8 minutes, about 8 minutes on that. Then we'll have another 4 minutes for the panelists to comment. Please put your questions on this particular one or comments in the section, and we'll bring those up during that 4-minute period also. And we'll move to the other 2 candidates. Each one has their own assigned question. Then at the end, I will bring those questions from the audience as well as some additional ones if we need additional questions. So, Dr. Chang, in looking back over the last 24 months, what were the biggest challenges presented by COVID and the variants to your program, and how have you resolved them?
All right. Do you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you, Britt. Thank you for a wonderful introduction. Nice to meet you all. I'm Sean in Miami, Florida International University. Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Here in Miami, 4 o'clock in the afternoon and Friday. So I'm joining the National FAD. Let's see, the virtual conference business attire. So how do I look? Do I look okay with top, but bottom is different?
Your hair looks better too.
All right, right. I'm one of very few researchers in the hospitality management field who have done research on indoor air quality. The COVID is a respiratory disease that the indoor environment, that is where that we're going to get a lot of confirmed cases. So we had hard time to had all our students believe it in the classroom without any windows, no or limited ventilation. How do we make them feel that classroom is safe to come and take class? And here's my two recent publications regarding particulate matter pollution or indoor air quality. You may all believe that the indoor, even the guest rooms or open kitchen restaurants are like great indoor environment that no pollution whatsoever exists. But based on my field research, that is not true. The indoor environment, in particular hotel guest room and open kitchen restaurant dining room, is a lot worse than that of immediate outdoor. Since I do research on indoor air quality, I have brought my equipment to the classroom. This is one of our popular classrooms. As you can see, it's like Marriott Foundation donated a generous fund to renovate the classroom there. And then this is the class being held. Because of the COVID, we had 50% capacity of the 50 seats in classroom. So no more than 25 students can join and register the class. And then this is one of the low-cost indoor air quality monitoring device. That's one of that I travel with and then measure anywhere that I go. And then I set it up in the classroom here in our campus. And three key indoor parameters that we have to look into to reduce the airborne transmission, because the COVID is the airborne transmission. No droplet is the aerosol that floats in the air. If you inhale it, then you will get a COVID. And so the three elements that we have to look is the indoor environment, particulate matter pollution 2.5. If we have one piece of hair and cut it and then look at the diameter, that is a size of 60 microns. So PM 2.5 is our diameter, our human hair is 50 or 60 microns. And the particle that we are dealing with here, PM 2.5 is 2.5 microns. Other two indoor air quality parameters is TVOC, volatile organic compounds, and then CO2, which is we exhale from our lung when we breathe. Right, for those who don't know what exactly PM 2.5 and the coronavirus, this is the microscopic image of PM 2.5. This is 2.5 microns. And do you see that this is a coronavirus? The coronavirus, the size is usually up to 0.1 to 0.5 micron. And the coronavirus can't live without a host. So we are the host. The coronavirus can survive, but particulate matter, the one that you are seeing, is also served as a host. As you can see, the almost 6 different coronavirus cling into the one piece of PM 2.5. So when we measure the indoor air quality with regards to particulate matter pollution, we will see how the chances that we can get a COVID or not. So here is the PM 2.5, the classroom that you just saw when we had no class whatsoever, because this is a classroom 2 days a week. We have a full class, like 3 classes entire day, but Saturday, Sunday, and Friday, we don't have any classes in the particular classroom. So PM 2.5, the WHO standard is 15 micrograms per cubic meter for 24-hour period. So I had 24-hour on the horizontal axis there. And this is the Sunday, first week of January when we had a first class, the first week of the semester. As you can see, all PM 2.5 level is lower than the acceptable level by WHO guidelines. So this is Friday, and then this is Saturday, which is good because no one's around and is very safe. So whenever that someone brings in COVID or a coronavirus, then it is chances that we can get a COVID is very low because there are not much PM 2.5 floating in the air. But when we have a class, here is the, so this is Tuesday, first week. And as you can see, doesn't much difference between the class or without a class in the same room. But one concern that we found is the second Tuesday, the Tuesday in second week is a lot higher than acceptable level. We couldn't figure out what that was. Maybe some sort of the particular matter that student brought it in, or on other activities like someone used cleaning supplies or some sort of hand sanitizers or wipes that they wanted to clean on the desk they're sitting on. But in order to see that whether in general for 24-hour period, our classroom with regards to PM 2.5 is not that bad. And this is the first week of Thursday. As you can see, it is below the acceptable standard. Right, let's move on to CO2. CO2 is the parameter that we can see whether that particular indoor space has been ventilated or not. So when there's no class, as you can see, the acceptable level is 800 and is below 800 during the week, the classroom that there was no classes. But one particular incident that higher than 800 parts per billion is on Friday when a custodian came in and then spent several minutes to clean. That's what the 800 over parts per ppb on Friday. And when we have a class, and then this is CO2, the outdoor level. When we measure the CO2 in an outdoor, the level is 400. And 800 is the indoor CO2 level that WHO believe it is acceptable. And when we have a class right there. So the time that we had a class around in the morning, 9 to 11, and then another class in the afternoon. And here, the second week, because the first week, the evening class was canceled. And the second week, when we had a class on Tuesday in the evening, the CO2 level went up a lot higher than acceptable level, which indicates the classroom do not have any mechanical ventilation, having the fresh air brought it in, and then dirty air goes out. And here is a Thursday. Thursday, we had a morning and an afternoon class. So it is a perfect lined up with whether students in the classroom or not. PM 2.5 and CO2 level wasn't concerning, but what I have found out for the 2-week investigation is TVOC. TVOC is chemical gas that can be emitted from everything, anything that you use for personal hygiene. Sometimes the hand sanitizer, usually the hand sanitizer emit the TVOC often. So when we had a no class, no students around, so the acceptable level is 500, is way below when no one is around and no classes are being held. But when we have a class, that is the one concerning. The one that I showed you, the small device, the maximum capacity that TVOC can measure is 1,200 ppb. When we have a class,
excuse me, Dr. Chang.
Yes,
we're over the 14 minutes.
Oh, we're already okay. So this is almost done. So as you can see, the PPB level, TVOC level is a lot higher than acceptable level for the classroom that when we have a class. The one particular reason that I suspected is this. Usually universities provide hand sanitizers that anyone can clean their hands. And that's where that we get the TVOC higher than acceptable level. While that these sanitizers can kill the virus at all, it only kills germs. And why we're providing something that we can protect ourselves from being exposed to virus. So in conclusion, we have to measure the classrooms that where we offer class students to come so that we can make them feel like this is safe places that can spend 3 hours a week for the class they are taking at a university. That's so far I have.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I know that's a challenge we all have, and certainly at our university, we don't have that kind of technical technical information that's showing what's going on in the class. So very informative for that type of problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we have Dr. Kai. If you'll unshare or take your screen off, please. Thank you. So our second question for Dr. Kai. The pandemic has changed the hospitality industry significantly. New delivery processes, job designs, customer expectations, job positions, and industry segments. What changes can we expect in curriculum and teaching methods to prepare our students for changes?
Thank you for inviting me here, and thank you for the question. I am currently an assistant professor at Colorado Mesa University. So I'm gonna share something with you guys and just touch upon with the post-pandemic time. And before I start, I would like to introduce the Colorado Mesa University a little bit because their policies and the regulations we have here and the changes we have been making are particularly related to the area that we have been in. So the Colorado Mesa University located in the beautiful Grand Junction in the western slope, the western Colorado. And this is our, we serve to the region stakeholders in western Colorado and to provide a high quality education and in a student-centered environment. And the university value their small class size and the high level of student-faculty interaction. So for our students and for the changes that happen in the industry, it is what we provide is very specific to the regions that we are serving. So just a little bit tied to what Dr. Chang just said, here at our university, a little background is that we have been offering face-to-face classes, except for the second half of their spring 2020 semester. So the CMU moved online further in the mid-March. And then starting in the fourth semester, we have been offering face-to-face modalities to our students, except for some faculties that may face in the compromised immunization or some compromised health condition. So as an assistant professor here, I have been offering face-to-face classroom since then. And the university has offered some of their changes as to require their masks or face covering. But since the fall 2021, their CMU has adopted the what we call as the mindful masking That being said, the mask is no longer required. Both students and faculties have the option to wear or not a mask. So I know that the policy or the regulation has been different in different states and different regions. So hopefully what I'm going to talk about as what we have been making as the changes to the program, we offer some insights to those who our educators who still have their mask mandates and may have their lessened policy in the future. So what I have observed after the pandemic is that students quickly adapt to the online modalities, and they do want to have more flexibility since the pandemic has happened. It is quite difficult to do it in the traditional way, still have their, such as their, the attendance or some of their classes offering that asks the students to be there at that time. So I can observe that we have more hybrid class meetings with the hybrid, and here means that you, for example, in my classes, we may have class meetings on Monday and Wednesday that have their online component on Friday for the students in order to accommodate the flexibility that students may require. What I have observed is that CMU is not in the best position as traditionally encourage their high level, their student and faculty interaction. And we have a lot more in-person class meetings than online class meetings. And that has been quite difficult for the institute to make their changes, because that's quite of their students' expectation. And in their first semester that we have, we come back to their in-person offering. I have some students tell me that at the beginning of their semester, they feel like, because I am the class that only offered in the in-person for them. So the rest of their classes are offered online. And they feel like they have the lack of their motivation to come to the campus just for that class. But as we go throughout, later in the semester, students told me that they really appreciate that we have this on face-to-face class meeting because they want to have that routine and they really need that human interaction. They will be able to work with their classmates, although you have to maintain their social distancing. But they really appreciate that. And it could be because their CMU is in a quite unique position, that the students appreciate their in-person class meetings. And that's part of the changes I think we have made. And regarding to our special location, because the Grand Junction is surrounded by several ski towns, like Aspen, Vail, Telluride, and it's not very far away from Salt Lake City. So because Britt and I both work at CMU, so we have been talking about whether we could better to serve their industry. So we have been talking about the option that maybe have a winter internship program for their ski resorts. As you may have known that their ski resorts often have their ski season last from late October to late, let's say March. So if their students have been maintaining the regular semester classes, it will be very difficult for them if they want to have that winter experience and being an intern at those ski resorts. So what we have talked about is to offer this personalized program for some students who will be committed to work with their ski resorts and taking some of the classes for their first half of the semester, and while maintaining some of the classes online, and then take their, so we will change their traditional 16-week class to 8-week class offering. So they will be able to then take face-to-face class meetings that they like for the first part of their fourth semester and the second part of their spring semester, while working as an intern with their ski resorts. So I almost ran out of time, and so thank you. I will stop right here.
We've got about 4 more minutes. So if Dr. Chang or Dr. Jones, if you have any comments on how you have dealt with the changes in the curriculum and teaching methods, particularly in how they relate to the industry that we're serving, preparing the students for that. If you have any additional comments or thoughts?
I'm happy to talk about it for a minute. We, are a public campus that serves about 30,000 students. So we have a very strong student success team. We have a strong IT team. We have a center called the Center for Academic Faculty Excellence, and we have had a lot of support in modality. And initially, when we first had to go online, the IT people were really there to help us become Zoom masters and figure out how to use videotaping and things. And it was a very sharp learning curve for all players. We came back and kind of to Dr. Kai's point, the flexibility that students started to see, the attractiveness of that was important because historically we had been a hybrid, faculty-driven hybrid. They felt the curriculum would be best managed if they could come face-to-face for group interaction and then have, group time and things or work to do, exercises. So high flex is something that we've been entertaining, and we have 15 classrooms across the campus, but in our own college, we have 2 or 3. And I am working now in a high flex environment. And it's challenging. I think probably one of the biggest things is that you work in this field because you think you have a expertise in hospitality and its uniqueness. And I've never felt more like I did at 18 as a server, trying to kind of please a customer and demonstrate that I have a skill set in some way. So my knowledge kind of took the back seat to my ability to manage the screen and everything.
Good. Great comment. Dr. Chang, real quickly.
Yes, I have observed the level of students' knowledge in terms of simple math, that calculating occupancy, ADR, RevPAR, because we offered online class over the past 2 years during COVID to help students manage the number of credit hours they have to earn and then graduate, but we couldn't control the specific level of that we help students obtain with critical classes that industry are expecting from our student. So we are trying to limit the number of online classes to the minimum level so that we can go back to where that we were 2 years ago, offering in-person class that we can make students accomplish all the learning outcomes and the class outcomes for the professionals the industry love to hire from our school.
Good, thank you. Well, let's move to our last question. I'll share the screen again with that question up. This is to Dr. Jones. How has the pandemic affected your school's retention and recruitment, and how are you addressing the issues?
I'm happy to start, but you do have a question in the chat. Hayes Dennis asks, is anyone noticing a preference among students to remain online? So if you want to take that before I start on the retention.
Anyone like to, Dr. Kai?
Yeah, sure. I will start. I think their students are different. There are like 2 groups of the students. Before CMU moved back to like face-to-face modalities, there was a student survey went out and asked us whether students would prefer to have their in-person class meetings or they prefer online. The students say that they prefer to have the in-classroom the classroom experience. So it's one of the reasons that their university decided to move back to offer an in-person class meeting. But I do occasionally receive students request that for some of their reasons, because of their family have moved, no longer stay in Grand Junction area, or some of the health issues, they request if there's a possibility to have the online. So I think students are different. I have noticed that there are two groups of the students. Some really require and prefer in classroom interaction, and some prefer online.
Dr. Jones?
I would quickly answer that on our campus, we faced the reality of our WSCHRIE accreditation, which requires, we've really been accredited as a face-to-face campus, and we are undergoing the application for online opportunity. And so, part of what we try to do when we direct our curriculum and make decisions about how we're going to offer courses is kind of adhere to our accreditation obligations and what goes on. We kind of use that as our foundation, and then we work out from there. I think students want the flexibility. I think they want the in-person. I think the challenge has become that we'd really like to be able to pick and choose. And, we're probably as guilty as they in that reality. And so we're seeing students say, yes, we'd like to be on campus, but then the realities of carving out the time and making the commute and those things are causing us a little bit of angst. We have been remote for the first 3 weeks, so we're going to have day one of the spring semester again on Monday. I have 140 for my Valentine's Day kickoff, and so we'll see. I think we're going to see kind of a up and down this spring as to what students want. So we've been remote the last 18 months, basically.
Interesting.
We were face-to-face in the fall a little bit, though, 25%.
I've got a comment. We are noticing this at Mission College, and it is causing conflict between faculty scheduling efforts and administration face-to-face goals. So I'd say we probably are experiencing that same type of thing. So let's do the last question. If we have a few more minutes at the end, we'll do some more questions.
Sure.
Okay.
So my responsibility is to answer how the pandemic affected the school's retention and recruitment and how we're addressing these issues. And I really would say that when I saw this question, I thought, wow, I live in a pretty protected world. We have an incredible student success team, and they have provided me a fair amount of information. Certainly I'm living it, but I thought it would help. We had roughly 8 to 10% of our incoming students not return this spring. There was a real effort to get students registered for spring. And I think part of this was they were kind of unclear because they had been remote so much about the process. There's so much peer-to-peer information shared that's lost a little bit in our online environment. The sitting next to a student who says, have you registered? What are you taking? Those things. We haven't seen that transition for our students in the online world. They use things like Discord or things of that nature to kind of chat. And I see them, start groups at the beginning of a term and everything, but it is more when they're in class, they're not using it to kind of help each other with that co-curricular responsibility. So we did have a really active campaign to get to the bottom of why students weren't coming back. And it was a campus-wide issue. It wasn't specific to us, but certainly we did face it. And one of the things that we really learned was that they didn't feel they were getting the college experience. And in particular, in a polytechnic environment, we have an on-campus restaurant, we have an incredible facility, we have a very vibrant speakers calendar and everything, and that ability to network and such is, I think Dr. Kai's right, they're really capable in the online environment. However, and they're afraid, as Dr. Chang says, about being face-to-face, but that balance is pretty complicated for us. And we have a lot of first-time college goers, and they faced an enormous amount of responsibility at home and also, illness and things of that nature. So that juggle was pretty important, our retention. So we actually had a report out every 3 weeks. We report out kind of how attendance is going and what we're hearing, and our students, actually taking exams and doing those kinds of things. And we have a team called Bronco Cares that reaches out to anybody who's gone missing. And I would say that, we used to, in the old days, use kind of a stop, start, continue in a midterm kind of role. It's really impressive the way our campus came together and engaged a whole army of people. And it kept you as a faculty member in check about, your responsibility is to the whole student and not just your content area, in a way that I had not seen so much. We were so busy in 19 that we were so, the numbers were good and we had so much going on campus. I think that one-to-one is kind of one of the big advantages and important in retention. The industry certainly did not look good on television. And we really saw a mass exodus, like the furloughs and everything really kind of scared people about we saw in our new recent alums, they were quick to find a job and not necessarily kind of waited out. Whereas our alums who were 5-10 years out, who were a little bit more senior, many of them were able to stay in. And so one of the things we did in the way of retention was to tap that audience and kind of help them understand, students, the reality of the cycles of our industry, and that, looking to bring skills, that are above and beyond just service skills were important. So a couple of other things that we really saw in the way of struggle is we had a large number of international students, or we had a lot of students who were traveling internationally. And that combination, people wanted to be with their family during the pandemic. And so even if they were living here, many of them went home to other places where perhaps they felt safer and things. And so the international student and even the students from out of state, I had many students, kind of go places where they could band together and get things done, and rent a house with 5 other students or something in a place that wasn't as densely populated. And certainly I would say the other hard part of retention was that in the fall we had 25% of our classes online, so a lot of our new students were moving to campus. And then kind of, as Dr. Kai pointed out as well, I've moved to campus. I've got this dorm room. There's very limited opportunity of what's going on campus. And my other 3 classes are online. Why can't I be doing that in my mother's living room? And so those are all things that were pretty in our face about retention. And I think that we have talked a lot about it, and we're kind of working through it. I think that I would kind of close the issue of retention with the fact that we are well aware that this online hybrid learning is something that is here to stay, and that we better not just hope it's going to go away. We better get as good at it as we were at face-to-face. And that's something that I think certain faculty are really committed to, and they were early adapters anyway, and so it was somewhat seamless for them. But we think our students deserve the opportunity to kind of engage the way it's going to make sense, so that they can get out in a timely fashion and take part in the industry. So in addressing kind of some of these issues, I think the things that we did that we thought were helpful, we had the advising team. They actually were reviewing the academic plan with every single student, so that they could see how many more months they had or what went on, and they had the time to do that because of the Zoom environment. They could schedule an appointment, and in particular when we were all on lockdown, they welcomed having a meeting with somebody to say, here's where you are in your life here, and what was going on. We did try to kind of send moments. We sent like videos of you know, we're here with you, we're working together, and we have a really terrific communications person who puts together some very inspirational videos from either the dean or, you know, from faculty or student success or some kind of combined effort. We run a weekly newsletter called the Collins Update, and we try to kind of highlight student activities. We have speakers, things of that nature. And we were really trying to make sure that students were, that were struggling, that we were there trying to show them where the system was. So that is kind of, in a nutshell, what we were trying to accomplish in the way of retention. Our recruiting efforts were pretty impressive, and we do have somebody who does that full time, and I would be happy to share. I would say, and I will certainly put it in the chat, we have a terrific virtual tour that you're in a classroom and you actually see a video clip of a speaker, like a CEO of a restaurant, speaking to a group of students and everything. So students could imagine what it was going to be like when we were back as well. And again, that constant contact with emails and things where we were using text, and we're the only department on campus that was using text to reach out to our students who were coming in as applicants and things. So we were doing everything we could to turn over a I'm interested into a I'm coming. And I think my time's up.
I think you're on mute, Britt.
Dr. Chang, anything from your school different, or would you like to add on that from retention and recruitment? You're on mute too. We all haven't.
I wish I'm a dean to know everything about it. I'm far from it. I have heard that the enrollment a little bit went down, but we are lucky that our university located one of the largest tourism destination in the country. And the students are like descendants of families running a restaurant and bed and breakfast, hotels, and so on. So they come to our school to run their family business. That's where that old international student from South America. And yes, we have noticed that a little bit of enrollment went down, but I do not have that clear percentage or statistics how much our enrollment went down off my top of my head. But what we have noticed is still students are interested in particular those students in South Florida or even Greater Florida and South America. They are interested in pursuing their career in hospitality management and obtain a degree in hospitality management to expedite their career path to the pinnacle. Good.
So we've got about 6 more minutes. One thing I'd like to say, and then see if there's any other comments. Something that I've noticed from this panel and from talking to a lot of different people since we started with COVID is I'd like to say congratulations to our educational association, industry, whatever. But I think we've done a pretty good job of pivoting and having, in hospitality, we call it a service recovery, being able to be flexible and work with the students. And I think everybody should kind of give themselves a pat on the back for that. So we got a few more minutes. I don't have any more from the audience. Please send those in. We've got a couple of minutes. I did have a couple of other questions. What does the future of hospitality education look like? And I know we've had some little bits of that in this, but just maybe a general statement. Dr. Kai? What does the future of hospitality education look like?
Well, I think there are two things. I think the social and emotional intelligence is still very important, and even with the technology that probably were being integrated into the service process, So I think there are people skill that it will still be a focus in our education. But on top of that, I think we also need to prepare the students for like any of the changes that might be in the future, like self-service technology. That we have been talking about that, but maybe with the robotic service, it could be different or in different formats. And one trend that we have observed is that customers really look for seamless and convenient service and experience. And so even for some of the high-end restaurants that they start to use their QR codes to provide their digital menu, that could be environmental friendly and also allow some flexibility whenever they want to change their menu. And looks like consumers like it. So I think we also need to tell the students to be prepared for that. And for those young generation, they probably will be able to embrace that change.
Good. Dr. Jones?
So I think that I would answer that question. You know, I work with the Club Management Association of America. And one of the things that I saw in a conference that I was doing with them is that the enthusiasm for an opportunity for creativity really came out of this. It was reactionary for sure, but I do think that it was a time of innovation and that was exciting. And I think that we need to tap that opportunity and demonstrate, you know, kind of in the way that we have with a service recovery strategy or something, you know, how do you create that incubator so that you are in a position to react and evolve and everything? Because I think, you know, that the speed at which everybody had to, you know, in real time as operators manage is going to be very valuable. I also think that data, we all thought it was a really good idea and we all had it in our curriculums, but we actually saw the industry use it. We saw the population use it. And I think that that's going to be play a bigger role and be a little bit more in the forefront. So creativity and innovation, and certainly that data, we saw a lot of our students take data jobs out of school. And I think that's something a college degree student offers an industry that others don't get the chance to necessarily.
Good. We've got about 2 more minutes. Real quick, Dr. Chang.
I spent 1/3 of my young life in Las Vegas, living there, went to college, UNLV, and worked there in the casino. All I wanted to do, help my students to learn from my classes, is how they can translate or convert people business into a profitable business that investor put into the real estate, couple of $100 million for it. So far, we haven't taught students how to convert meaningful relationship between customers and employees that in a personal manner. Who knows what their favorite drinks are, who knows their names, first, last name, and then when they walk in and welcome them like a family member to coming back home. We haven't taught students how to convert that relation into a financial statement that the investor wanted to see on the bottom line. That's what we are lack of in our hospitality education. If we add to that with the curriculums that we all have, then our student will be sought by all the hospitality big firms like Marriott or Hilton to hire them for the higher profit margin they wanted to achieve.
Good, thank you. Well, I'd like to thank the panelists and the audience, and hopefully everyone will be able to get in on a lot of additional panel discussions and presentations as we go forward, and enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you.